Hi, welcome to Astrology for GAN Traders. My name's Olga. Now, every time I start doing new videos, I get more interest and more people making comments, and then we go down a few more rabbit holes. Now, my last video was about the Gemini convergence of a lot of planets actually coming together, all together in a huge stellium from actually starting from 2028, then 2030, then 2032. Okay. Of course, when I saw the 2030, I already had we've just had news this week that CERN um, shut down for the next 4 years and then is planning to restart the engine, so to speak, in 2030 in June. I don't believe in coincidences, because I always see these cycles in a way they fit into one another and there's no coincidence. It's like it's planned in some way, whether we know it or not. There's a universal system to it. Anyway, then the other thing also we know about is Agenda 2030, that have, people are, well, most people are worried about, because it seems to us that there's going to be, like, the famous quote is to do with "you will own nothing and be happy." Okay, now we've got some things happening. So in 2030, we've got the CERN activation again, starting the engines again, and then Agenda 2030. Okay, so why is this year in particular important? Well, I'm coming from it as an astrologer, and I can see the alignments in these charts, and I just think that it's incredible. And I just wanted to share it with you because this is how we use the study of astrology and cycles to see the patterns, okay, and the timing as well. And what's happening in 2030 as well is an important solar eclipse. You can see it going right through this whole part of, like starting in parts of Africa, all through Europe and through Russia and China, okay, all into the coast here. Now, this is, I just want to say that this eclipse is linked to the foundation chart, the founding stone of CERN, when they actually laid the foundation stone, which, as a ritual, a lot of these people who start corporations and so forth, they continue the old way, and it was always laying the foundation stone of the building. That was the most important date. It wasn't necessarily when they're signing papers. It was actually putting their mission in stone in the ground on a particular day, because they wanted to have a good omen on that day, depending what was happening as above, so below. So yeah, so I had a look at that. I think you're going to find this very interesting. I'm going to bring in some of the conspiracies, because I think that people are opening up to other stories and what we've been told. Okay, now I remember the first time I heard about CERN, maybe most of us, was in Dan Brown's Angels and Demons. Okay, and remember the story. I mean, a lot of it was probably based on what he'd researched about it, and then how much of it's fiction, we don't know. But this is where a lot of the, I suppose, conspiracies come out of, right? So in the story, if you remember, there's a scientist who creates a tiny amount of antimatter. The antimatter is stolen by a secret society called the Illuminati. So this is where we start learning about the Illuminati, which means the illuminated ones who had all the secrets, right? The plot then moves to Rome, where the antimatter is used as a threat against the Catholic Church. So it's all centered on Rome and the Pope. And the protagonist, Robert Landon, follows the clues for churches, sculptors, ancient symbols to try and stop the attack, if you remember the story, all right? So what is CERN? CERN it's actually the European Particle Physics Laboratory, and it operates a Large Hadron Collider. So they're making particles collide really fast, okay? It's about particles and forces, and they discovered the Higgs boson. Is that how you pronounce it? But they called it the God particle in 2012. Of course, 2012 was an important date anyway for this to happen. So now they've closed it down because they need to do repairs, but they want to make a super duper version of this so that they're going to have more of these particles colliding at a far faster pace. Of course, that's going to create issues for people. What exactly are they doing? Are they trying to be God? All right. So apart from that, there's also concerns about the cost and energy, the environmental footprint, safety concerns, ethical questions about very large scientific projects. Now, I know everything is underground. It's in Geneva in Switzerland. There's lots of tunnels under there. And now these are the conspiracies that have come from all this, right? People believe that they're opening portals to other dimensions. We've got the Mandela effect was caused by CERN. Black holes are destroying the Earth, changing timelines and connecting to biblical prophecy. So they're interfering with, I suppose, the frequency of the Earth. And the Mandela effect, a lot of people are convinced that that exists. The fact that, you might remember one thing and another person remembers something else. And so which one is it, And so it's so interesting. Changing timelines, people are sensing, I think it's done something to the vibration where the difference between different dimensions or times is getting thinner and thinner. So people are moving in here, like sliding, like that movie, sliding in and out. And maybe you're getting more intuition, you're getting more synchronicity or telepathy, like you think of someone and they call you. All those things, I think people are experiencing a lot more because the field somehow of our Earth is changed quite a lot. And whether it's to do with CERN or it's just a natural thing because we're moving in our cycles, it's all happening. Now, the biblical part, which I found, is because CERN was actually built over an ancient temple of Apollo in Saint Genus Puli, probably don't pronounce that properly, once known as Apollocum by the early Romans, believed to be the gateway to the underworld in Roman times. Okay, so this is where this whole thing about, most places over time, cathedrals and temples, they have been built on top of ones prior to that, and then another level. So they know that they're sacred sites for whatever reason. Usually it's because of the lines that cross over in many places, and usually it's connected to what they call the St. Michael line that runs through a lot of places. I've been to a lot of those places, the ley lines. And anyway, so that's one thing, okay? Now, I have to put as I said to you, I believe that the foundation stone's more important than actual signing of the foundation of the corporation, or it's actually a foundation, isn't it? Now, so this is the chart. It's on the 10th of June, 1955 in Geneva. I've just put 12. I don't know the exact time, but usually they do it around midday because they want the sun up high in a high position, in the 10th house on the midheaven, representing power and authority and the throne, okay? And so we can see that on that day, the sun is on 18 Gemini, right? The south node of the moon's 26 Gemini, Mercury is at 27 Gemini, Mars is at 10 Cancer, so we've got a bit of Cancer here. But what I want you to notice is that I've put the fixed stars around here because I know when they do ritual in terms of foundation stones, there's always got to be some fixed star that they're wanting to bring down, harness the energy of that alignment, mainly the stars, So if you look here, you can see that on that day, Rigel, Bellatrix and Betelgeuse, all from Orion, are all in this area. And next to it, we've got the Pleiades, right? You can see that Venus is the 26 Taurus, is very close to Alcyone, Algol, which is Medusa, the demon star. So we've got a lot of, it's pointing to the Pleiades and Orion and also Sirius, okay? Sirius is at 13 degrees of Cancer. We don't have any planets there. Mars is close by. Now, when we look at fixed stars, the orb that you can use for these, it was quite wide. If you look at old astrology books, they did use a wide because mainly it's more to do with observational astrology. And so it's there. Okay. So we've got a lot of that. All right. And so Orion, Orion is one of the most, I suppose, important constellations. It's mentioned in the Bible. And for the Greeks, he was the giant hunter. And also, people have been showing, I have a book, I'll show it to you. It's called Gods of the Bible by Mauro Biglino, right? He has translated the Bibles and has made a different interpretation of what it is. Okay, it's pretty brilliant. I know he worked at the Vatican, but then he had to leave, I suppose, because he discovered things that they didn't want made public. But he's written this, and in this book, he translates mainly the Old Testament, and how some of the words weren't. He translates them from the Hebrew, Aramaic, and the Greek as well, right? And he makes it anyway. In this book, he talks about how he found that the biblical giants and Nephilim that came down to earth and mingled with the women here, the actual name Nephilah is actually in Greek is actually related to Orion. Okay, so if you believe in the extraterrestrial coming down to earth and giants and then making a hybrid race with the women down here, like it says in the Bible, he's saying, according to that, that they're coming from Orion. Now, I don't know if this is linked, but when I find something, this is just stuff through all my research from, I don't know, 30 years and all my books in my library. These are the things that you come together and maybe you make a story about it. Because when my father is Sicilian, he's passed away now, but he would always tell me when I was young that in Sicily, they were taught when they were little kids that the giants built a lot of the temples and the stoneways between the islands. There were these stones, and and so that they grew up with those. And I know that in Sardinia they have massive skeletons of giants. Giants have been found everywhere, and a lot of them have just been, when they used to find them, they would either destroy them or take them away. They're probably all in the Vatican, who knows? Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, now Rigel is in the left foot of Orion. Okay, so you can see that on that day, okay, so in 1955, when the foundation stone went down, there were two eclipses on either side of the date. Okay, there was a lunar eclipse on the 5th of June. And it was exactly, 2 degrees off, really, to Rigel. So we're still in the Orion area here. Now, Rigel's the left foot of Orion, and it's associated with success through knowledge, scientific and technical ability, engineering, education, teaching, vision and discovery, swift advancement, fame gained through intellectual achievement. Esoterically, Rigel is often symbolized as the first step in our quest, okay? Making the path linking the path between walking the path between heaven and earth, manifesting high potential and physical world. So the foot that advances civilization. That sort of makes sense considering CERN's mission is to unlock the fundamental building blocks of matter. The symbolism is quite apt, right? The leap forward. Now, have a look at this, because this is when I try to bring everything together. Okay. This is what Orion looks like in the heavens, right? The picture that we make out with all the palm. It's got an arrow pointing out. Then we have Sirius, a dog star, just below it, and a little lepus here as well. But if you look, Everything's encoded, okay? They always say the symbols is how you make the stories. I had to put all their knowledge in symbols because most of the time, if you look back at history, anything esoteric, if you're trying to teach someone astrology, alchemy, or herbalism, anything to do with that, usually they were either burnt at the stake, or all the other things that happen. When the Inquisition came along, you weren't allowed to practice any of those things. All right, a lot of them went underground. Most of them were killed. A lot of them went underground. So the way that they could keep it going was to have symbols, cards like the playing cards and the tarot cards. Now these were only made like when were they? 1900s, but still they're continuing. To me, is starting your journey with your foot forward, like it is with Rigel, and the Fool. He doesn't know where he's going. He thinks he's going to fall off the cliff, but he's got the little dog there, and the little dog, Kaveri, I believe, is serious here. Okay, and it's funny because in some decks the Fool is 0. Okay, and I think that could also be a symbol for Orion, but it could also be a symbol for the beginning and the end, the alpha omega of your journey. If we start everything at Orion and then come back, just something I think about. Okay. Now, Betelgeuse, remember that movie? That's in Orion's right shoulder. So this, again, on the 20th of June, 1955, there was a total solar eclipse, okay? And on that day, the eclipse was exactly conjunct Betelgeuse, right? This is all about great strength, ambition, military, heroic power, leadership, courage, the ability to reshape one's environment. Esoteric writers often see that as divine will, creative force, the power to transform reality, the shoulder that carries great responsibility. Unlike Rigel's step forward, Betelgeuse is the source of Orion's power. So they put the foundation stone in the midpoint, nearly exactly, of a lunar and solar eclipse right in the whole constellation of Orion. Okay, whether this was planned or not, I'm just showing you because I don't believe that people that in the know don't use astrology to work to make sure that they have the best opportunity on that day at that time to get the force of their gods, right? The planets are always gods, not one god, many gods, and to give them the best possibility for whatever their venture is. Okay, so now the other one of the conspiracy things is that the site of CERN, as I said, was built on Apollo, Temple of Apollo, which people have said is actually connected to the angel of the bottomless pit and the sixth hell in the Bible. Okay. Now, the other thing is that started a lot of the conspiracies as well. The statue of Shiva, Hindu, outside CERN's office in Geneva, and that is the destroyer of the worlds. But, so is it because they're out to become God with their God particle, and people are afraid that to do that, they have to destroy part of humanity? So it's interesting, why they've got this destroyer Shiva there. People link it to Satan, an adversary to God in humanity. Okay, so what I've done here, I've got the foundation stone and the 2 lunar eclipses, and you can see how they all line up because they've got all this Gemini, right? Of course, they're all going to line up. So see where I'm going. If you saw my previous video, I'm showing you that in 2030, 2032, we're going to have, again, all this energy and eclipses in the same area, right? So it's a repeat of planetary energy. And as I said already, the fact that whether by design or coincidence, CERN's cornerstone was laid during an extraordinary 20-day period in which 2 eclipses on the sun activated three of Orion's principal stars, Rigel, Bellatrix, and Betelgeuse. So this is a lot to do with Orion has long symbolized humanity's quest for knowledge and the pursuit of powers beyond ordinary understanding. So now, as I said, look at it. In 2030, we've got a solar eclipse on the 1st of June, and then we have on the 15th, we have a lunar eclipse. And again, you can see the degrees here. So we've got the eclipse, solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Gemini, and then there's the lunar eclipse at 20 degrees of Gemini. This is in 2030. But yeah, so on the 1st of June 2030, this solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Gemini will be conjunct the fixed star Aldebaran, which is the bullseye of Taurus. Now, you're going to be saying to me, Olga, if it's in Gemini, why is it in Taurus? Okay, so what happens, there's something called the precession of the equinoxes, and over time, the actual date that these stars are connected to the sun are actually changing every 72 years by 1 degree. So even though originally we can say that, 2,000 years ago, because it takes approximately 2,160 years for it to do 30 degrees, this is how we're able to, people try to time when these temples or Egypt or the pyramids were built is by the precession. So yeah, Aldebaran would have been in Taurus at 10 degrees, around 10 degrees at Taurus 2,160 years ago, right? And this is where we had all the bull worship, more of it. And then previous to that, it would have been the next sign. Do you know what I mean? It just goes. But at the moment, it's in what we would say in Gemini. So, and Antares, which is the opposite to that, which is the heart of the Scorpion, is actually at 10 degrees of Sagittarius, right? So the sun is actually conjunct these now at different times when it was over 2,000 years ago. So this is all to do with precession. But this is interesting. This is another important one. So now Aldebaran is one of the four royal stars. Eye of the bullseye. It's all to do with vision, watching, guardianship, great responsibility, success earned through courage. Now, he was a watcher of the East, representing awakening and illumination. Because it forms a bull's eye, many traditions associate it with focus, perception, and seeing into hidden realms, right? Inner vision as well. Now, when the church came along and they started, but even before then, because this is, in Persia, they had the four fixed stars, the four watchers. And then as Christianity sort of came in, they put the four archangels associated with these fixed stars, and Aldebaran is connected to Archangel Michael, which to me is important because a lot of the ley lines are connected to Archangel Michael. All right, the whole Saint Michael and Saint Mary lines through the UK. I've gone to the ones in France, and I believe that I'm going to be finding some in Italy when I go there in October. So yeah, this is significant. Now, the next one, there's a partial eclipse on the 15th of June 2030, and it will be conjunct, it's at 24 degrees of Sagittarius, it will be conjunct the fixed star called Rasalhag. I think how I pronounce it, because they're all Arabic names, and it's to do with the head of the serpent bearer, who is Ophiuchus, which some people say is a 13th zodiac sign. Okay, there's a big argument about that. His foot actually clips the ecliptic, and so people have said that he could be the 13th sign, right? I'm not going to go into that now, but this is who he is. But the other important thing is that this is very close to the galactic center, okay, which is at 27 Sagittarius 11. You can see that this degree is rising over Geneva, Switzerland on this lunar eclipse, okay? So this is, you can see all the Gemini here. That's all Orion, and also the Pleiades with Venus there. So this is, again, very similar to when the foundation stone went down. Okay, this is what I'm trying to show you, why I believe that they're restarting again in 2030 because of this alignment. I don't know what date they plan to do it. It's going to be interesting to see in another 4 years what date they pick. Okay, so Roswell Hug is a brighter star of Ophiuchus, and it's all to do with healing, secret knowledge, transformation, the reconcile of opposites, mastery over hidden forces. The image is not of one being attacked by a serpent. It's actually him holding the serpent. It's got a lot to do with like a Asclepius, who was the healer, wisdom, hidden knowledge, regeneration, the kundalini, rising, life force. So it becomes the one who control or channel those forces. It's really quite powerful. So you can see what I've done here. These are the two solar eclipses, one in 1955 when they had the foundation stone, but then in 2030, which is the Agenda 2030, you can see that solar eclipse going past most of, like, the northern part of the world, okay? Not the United States, that part, but that part in the middle here. So, and that's where obviously Geneva is. And yeah, so when they planned it, it's viewed astrologically. The solar eclipses falls on Aldebaran, the royal star of the bullseye. For thousands of years, Aldebaran was known as the Watcher of the East, the messenger of light, and one of the guardians of heaven. Whether its timing is meaningful or purely coincidental, it's remarkable that both foundation period in 1955 and also planned 2030 upgrade are framed by June eclipses, activating some of the most important fixed stars in the sky. Okay, so this is what they want to do. They want to upgrade the high luminosity to increase capacity to observe what was previously too rare or subtle to detect. Yeah, so for me, it actually incorporates a lot of the symbolism of the fixed stars. So in 1955, we've got Rigel, Bellatrix, Betelgeuse, the Builder, the Giant, the Quest. 2030, we've got Aldebaran, the Eye of the Bull, Vision and Perception, and also Roswell, the Serpent Bearer, Hidden Wisdom and Mastery. So 1955, we build the machine, and 2030, we sharpen the vision. So, I know there's a lot of conspiracies around it. I believe that, will it help humanity? I don't know. But I can see the cycles of all this, and maybe it's just our way of getting in touch with different dimensions and that are actually helpful to humanity. That's what we hope, rather than the negative. Some of the conspiracies are thinking that we're going to go through a black hole. And actually, the interesting thing is that the galactic center is actually like a black hole, a wormhole in the center of our galaxy. And actually, that eclipse, I just remembered about that. Can I go back to that? This galactic center here on the 15th of June is actually like the black hole of our Milky Way. And a lot of was written about this when 2012 was around. You know how the solstice were going to line up exactly with the galactic center, and they believed that it was the Mayan calendar and the world was going to end. But it wasn't the world ending. It was the ending of a cycle, which, look at what's happened since 2012. We can actually say, that was definitely a timing of a huge shift in everything that has happened since, okay? It's going to, these eclipses, because of the concentration of Gemini. Please watch my previous video so I don't repeat what I'm saying. It's all to do with the mind, technology, and ways we communicate. Isn't it interesting that Microsoft called their AI Gemini? They already know this. I just know that the people that in control use astrology every day, okay? I've never doubted that, because that's the way I can time things, because they know the astrology, and things are happening on those days. And the ones that don't, I know that too. So, yeah, interesting, hey? All right, so that's about it. There's a lot in here. If you come up with anything, let me know. I know that people are worried about Agenda 2030 because it's basically when they want to implement digital ID and all the other things that were also 5G. Um, you're not going to be able, you're not, they don't want us to own our homes. You're just not going to own nothing and be happy. The 5 minute cities, it's a 5 minute or 15 minute cities. Who knows? It might be even 5 minutes. So it doesn't sound good. But these alignments, the fact that there's so much Gemini and air, um, it's all to do with communication systems and how we relate to it one another globally, and there's going to be something that we've never seen before, so it's hard for me to visualize it. But imagine some sci-fi movie and how they used to do everything. I believe that the earth is actually rising in its vibration anyway, and we will then understand what all this Gemini energy is. It's like us ascending, and our senses are fine tuning more so that we don't have to wait for someone to send us an email. We're already in connection with them, and it's like telepathy. So yeah, our antenna is like more able to pick up the signals, right? So that's what I believe, and I believe that's where we're moving. But while the chaos is happening, um, underneath there's something else that's going to be available to humanity that will actually help. And yes, so I want to end on a positive note. Okay, so thanks for listening. I probably went over a little bit, about 30 minutes. That's okay. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do. I'm going to be talking about astrology, ancient mysteries, sacred geometry, GAN, obviously, hidden cycles, planetary cycles, and I'll be traveling more in this year in October. I'm going to be doing a research tour in Italy, so I might even put some videos up while I'm over there. But this is my passion. Since I got into GAN, it wasn't just the trading part. It was the fact when you get into GAN, you start buying all these books. I was already into esoteric stuff, but when you go into GAN, WD GAN, he was such a high degree esoteric person that I kept buying books and delving into the ancient mysteries. That's where he wants you to go. I mean, he traveled to Egypt. Like I've been 4 times. I don't know how many times he went. He had his pilot. He had a female pilot that flew him to Egypt to study the pyramids and the alignments and whatever he could do, right? And so I just feel like for us to grow, to evolve, that we need to expand our awareness, not just sitting in front of the TV and watching, you actually have to study and evolve as a soul. And that's the whole point. I think a lot of these people who were esoteric, we'll say masters like WD, every lifetime they come back, they pick up more knowledge, and then eventually one day you don't have to come back. I think they believe that. And I know the Rosicrucians say that you reincarnate every 144 years, which is a number that Gan used all the time. So he would have been reincarnated a couple of years ago if that cycle actually works. Yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? 12 by 12. Okay, thanks for listening, and yeah, let me know what you think, any comments, and usually that leads me down another rabbit hole, but you can actually see how these eclipses after 75 years are actually the same time, not exactly the same day, but it's enough that the nodes, the lunar nodes, are in the same area. All right. So that's another thing that I've talked about before as well. So, yeah, thank you for listening. And should you be concerned? I don't know. Bye.